Let me give you a situation that I promise is going to relate to keys.
Suppose you have a cylinder of mass m. That means its weight is m times acceleration due to gravity, g, so to lift it you need a force mg.
But suppose you don't have that much force. What do you do?
Well, the one thing that's fixed is how much work you have to do, the force times the distance you're moving. So if you want to use less force, it's going to have to be over a greater distance.
This is a perfect situation to use one of the simplest machines, the inclined plane.
If we insert a wedge under the cylinder, then while we push on the wedge from the side, it slowly pushes the cylinder up. The narrower the wedge, the less force we need to apply, but the farther in the wedge needs to be pushed. A wedge that has a slope of 1/2, which is about a 26.57 degree angle, will only need a 1/2 mg force to push, but will have to move in twice as far as the block moves up. Notice that the force is now at a right angle from the motion of the cylinder. Now let's say you have multiple cylinders of different heights and you want to align their tops. You can raise them all by pushing in a wedge, but you can't control if this gives you the right heights.
The next logical step if you need different heights is to have different wedges.
With a wedge corresponding to each cylinder, you can line them all up. But now suppose that you need to get this tool out. You can't do it because you've left the other sides flat. So the key to this problem is...
Oh, sorry, I gave it away, but you probably already figured that out from the title.
a key. The wedges raise the cylinders, but are also double-sided so you can pull them back out.
But wait just a moment, Squirt. That's not what keys do. Keys don't just move cylinders, they unlock locks.
So let's turn these cylinders into a lock. Say each cylinder is a 2-part pin, and the pins are holding 2 blocks together. When the breaks in the pins line up with the surface of the blocks can move relative to each other. When the key is removed, springs push the pins back, stopping motion.
The most common locks nowadays are cylinder locks.
When the pins align, the cylinder can rotate with the key, allowing it to be turned. Turning the key then turns a structure called a cam, which pulls in the bolt against a spring. And with the bolt out of the way, the door can open. The key can then be moved back to its entry orientation and withdrawn. To lock it again, you turn it until the cam snaps back and the bolt is released.
Note that because there's a spring, you can push the bolt even though it's locked.
That's why, to close the door, you can pull it and the frame presses against the inclined side and it closes, but you can't open it because the other side's flat. If you want one of those bolts on external doors that when turned can't just be pushed back in, all you need to do is directly connect the cam to the bolt, so the bolt can't move without the key in.
Okay, Squirt, you say. I can mostly see how a cylinder lock would work.
But what about this key? There's not an inclined plane in sight.
Well, it looks to me like that is the key to a different type of lock, specifically a levered tumbler lock.
Different segments of the key's edge align with different-sized tumblers held down by springs. When the key turns, it moves these up just the right amount so that the bolt pin can slide along a slot through the centers of the tumblers. The key also engages the bolt itself, pushing it out. When the bolt is fully extended, the bolt pin reaches a new dip and springs push the tumblers back down, securing the bolt's position. The same process works in reverse to unlock the lever tumbler lock.
These locks are a little more old-fashioned, a little less secure, but they're still prominent in some areas of Europe, Africa, and South America. Alright, but this still doesn't account for every key you've ever seen.
What about this key? The outer edge is flat, so it can't be for either a cylinder or a lever tumbler lock.
This key fits a warded lock, which is one of the most ancient types of locks of all, although you can still find them on some really old buildings and artifacts, as well as on some low-security things, mostly for aesthetics and for old-fashioned charm. This is probably the basic explanation of a key you were given as a kid.
The shape of the key is opposite to the concentric obstructions in the lock. Turning the key can move a lever or directly activate the latch or bolt it needs to move. Some ward locks are double-sided. These are always perfectly symmetrical, so both sides can fit the same concentric pattern.
So I hope I covered most of the different types of keys out there. If you see a key that doesn't fit any of these descriptions, let me know in the comments and I'll go check it out, see how the lock works. Or maybe you wanted a video on lockpicking or on modern high security, fancy technology of locks. I'll be waiting to hear back from you, but in the meantime, like this video, subscribe to the Squirt, and hit the bell to get notified of future content. and I'm going to get started on writing my new song. It's about the search for the perfect lock. Spoiler alert, there's a lot of key changes.
And so I changed the key.